Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch, a weekly show amplifying the voices of the Virginia grassroots. Each week, we provide engaging conversations about politics, culture, and women making change. Produced by the unstoppable women of Network Nova, our motto is, when we vote, we win. The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and show us some love and become a sponsor through Patreon. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done.
So let's get things started. We have a lot to unpack today. It is October 28th. Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch. I'm Catherine White, no ghost, but your host, bringing you the guests, the issues, the action, amplifying the voice of the grassroots to get things done. And of course, we always like to make it fun and real. So I'm so excited. Today's theme is spooky stories this election. We're going to talk about some chills and thrills of the election season and how we're going to send the grassroots to the rescue. I am really delighted to talk about some of those chilly things. Get the phone. I think it's Ghostbusters. They're going, get the phone. There's always something going on. So Lisa VARGA, Lisa here, she's in the room, Executive Director, Virginia Library Association, and there's a lot to talk about. Hey, Lisa, you feeling spooky today?
Very much so. I'm excited to be here and tell some of the stories.
Well, good, because you know what was really cool, how we kind of got to meet you was you were at the Virginia Beach Women's Summit.
Yes.
And then you had a whole month of book stuff and book banning. So you really do know the stories. So
I do. I've got the background.
Yeah. And it's so important. I mean, we're having fun with it today, but it really is some tricks going on. And we really need to find out what's going on, sort of the history behind it. So we're so glad you're here, Lisa. Thank you for coming into the room today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So exciting. All right. Ivy Main, energy consultant, lawyer, writer, Virginia Sierra Club Renewable Energy Chair. There's a lot going on there. And you just been writing a lot about this climate stuff. It's great to see you. How are you feeling today? You got your pumpkin behind you. You're ready for trick-or-treaters?
All set, yeah.
What's your candy? What's your energy candy today for the trick-or-treaters?
Well, I'm an Almond Joy fan myself.
Almond Joy. I'm with you on that one. A lot of people, like, I used to dig around in my kids' candy thing for that Almond Joy in Mounds, right?
Yeah, we always took them away from the kids. They never got any of it.
Yeah, that candy's bad for you. Give it to mom.
Yeah.
That. Well, I'm so excited because truthfully, we've been really thinking a lot about climate, the important things and the progress we've made in Virginia. And we're seeing some of this kind of really unsettling rollbacks. And we really are so glad you can join us to talk about what's going on. You've been writing about what the governor is doing to try to take us out of the RGGI agreement. So thank you for being here. It's always great to see you.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, and you know what? We're going to say there's somebody that always comes to the rescue. Our great friend of the show, great friend of the grassroots, the champion of just everything fun. And today, look at him. Sam Rasoul, Delegate, how are you feeling?
I'm good. Good to see you again, Catherine, and Network Nova.
Yeah, so you have some.
Y'all look strong today.
You look strong. Well, it's true. You know, I'll tell you a story. I went to the farmer's market. And I brought the fun. I brought the music. I was like, I'm showing the world that Democrats not only have answers about stuff we're trying, but we're bringing the fun. You know, I brought music and made everybody happy. So who wouldn't want to vote for us? You know, we got to break.
Yeah, you got to make it fun, and you all always do.
Yeah, so I'm excited today to unpack with you about what we're looking forward to, we're not looking forward to. In this session, and then some of your insights to the tricks and treats we're seeing, and then maybe, you know, getting us together to figure out what we're going to do about it. How's that sound? Right. Are you in?
Sounds like a plan. Looking forward to it, and great to be with this awesome panel.
Oh, no, We're not a panel. We're ghosts. We're the grassroots busters. So we'll
Grassroots busters and my special friends today.
Special friends, All right, Sam, so glad you're here. We really appreciate you for your time. And let's just talk about, the housekeeping in the office to keep the evil at the distance, is that in the Ghostbuster house, is that we do always ask you guys to use the chat. Maybe even tell us today, what are you doing this weekend? Are you going to Souls to the Pole? What's your Halloween outfit? Share some great stuff or some sort of your tricks or treats. But we also want to make sure you keep it civil in the chat, or the bouncer up there, if you see her, she has her little bandit mask on. She loves to toss people out if they misbehave. And also newcomer liaison chat, Michelle McKinney. Is she here today, Robin? Yes. All right. So wave Michelle. You have any questions, please reach out to Michelle. She will help you. And after chat, last week's after chat, this is what we do after we all do this great conversation at 1 o'clock, or maybe a little after. We do the after chat, and boy, did we have a great discussion. And we just had so much interesting sharing going on, and it was very powerful. So if you can stick around today, we'd love to talk about the weekend and see what everybody's doing, how they're feeling. And also, lastly, support the show. Become a Patreon. You'll see in the room, if you have this special background, that you do support the show. It means a lot to us. And with all the tricks and treats going on, we need all the treats that we can manage to keep the show going. So thank you so much. Become a supporter. Put a little bit in our basket. Thank you. And, next up, we're also a lot of tricks and we're a lot of treats, but we have some serious stuff going on. So we have our grassroots coalition leader, Louisa Borowski, to unpack what the hell we're going to be doing, with our this weekend and the next. So let's.
Yeah, I am so excited to share all of my tips on how you can help get out the vote. So this is the last push, everyone. And so if you can canvass, great. I'm going to share some opportunities. If you can get on the phones, fantastic. Do some texting, do some social media posts. We need to go all out because we've got 3 women that we're trying to protect in their seats, and 2 of them, it is really close. So a poll has come out over the past week that shows that Elaine Luria is 50-50 with her opponent. It is a completely dead heat race. We need support for Luria wherever you can help. I'm going to be down there this weekend, knocking doors Saturday and Sunday in Virginia Beach. If you can't make it down, though, there are lots of ways to support her through phone banking and other outside support to make sure that people in that area get to the polls. Additionally, we have just seen that Spanberger's race has been downgraded from a lean Democrat yes to a toss-up. And that is a concern for us. So if you can't make it down to Virginia Beach, make it to Spanberger's district and knock some doors this weekend. I saw that Rose said that she will be down there in the chat. I will put links to the information on where to find those staging locations for the canvas. So please support our women and make sure that they get back to the House. Additionally, social media is a great way to remind people to vote. We need turnout this year. We have Democrats in Virginia, but we need to make sure that they are all committed to voting. Vote early if they can, vote on the day of the election, but I'm going to share some social media graphics that you can be posting. Another thing, if somebody has asked for a mail-in ballot, they need to return that ASAP, and please use those social media graphics that remind them 2 signatures. They need a supportive signature on that ballot for it to count. Additionally, Swipe Blue is a new app that you can use to contact your friends who are in your phone and remind them to vote. It's super easy. So if you're like, I just can't make it off my couch today, you can still text voters and get them out to the polls. And then the last thing I'm going to share in the chat is helping to ensure safe voting. We are concerned that, there may be some intimidation at the polls. There are new rules about the fact that people can register to vote and vote on the same day. We want to make sure that our voters are protected and feel supported as they go to the polls, both for early voting and voting the day of the election. So I'm going to put into the chat ways that you can register to be a poll monitor and also register to be a social media monitor during the election. So the social media monitor is a new thing to me, and I'm really excited to see how that's going to work out. But I think a lot of it is tackling this misinformation. We know it's coming. I was just voting a couple of weeks ago, and all of the signs out in Arlington County, no matter who you are and what party you're affiliated with, are blue, right? So how do people know who stands for what, right? And so it's really, really important that we are helping make sure our voters are educated, our voters are excited, and our voters are going to go vote. So that's what I have to share. This is all about GOTV this weekend, Catherine.
I know, and there is a lot. I was really excited to see, this weekend, especially I think Sunday is the Souls to the Polls. And
it is in most places. So every place is a little different.
Okay.
Loudoun County had Souls to the Polls last weekend, but most other places, this Sunday is Souls to the Polls. And there's some really cool things you can do, right? Join a caravan, get out there, support the voters as they're coming to vote. CCAN down in Luria's district is supporting vote tripling, which means they stand outside of the polls, and as people leave, and you know that they were Democrats because they probably picked up that Democratic sample ballot, you say, hey, thank you so much for voting. Can you please text 3 people you know and ask them to go and vote? So you can say, hey, I just voted. Please make sure that you come out. It's so critical this year. And they've found that this is actually a really great tactic and method. So if you don't like knocking on someone's door, talk to someone who obviously already cares because they just went and voted, and have them help triple that vote.
Yeah, I'm going to say that what we know when we get down to this last week, the things that really work, and that's being at the poll place to hand the ballot out and talk to the voters and manage all that, right? Okay. And I really see right now with a lot of stuff going around, they really need help. Simple stuff. Sign up to help, just work at a polling place to help hand out ballots and talk to voters. That's where they are. That's the voter. They're coming right in front of you, and there they are to capture them. And some of them are confused depending on what's on the ballot. It's pretty easy in most localities, but like Fairfax City, Catherine Reed's running. There's a lot of things on the ballot in some areas. So thank you, Louisa.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Do you have your costume ready all for Halloween, or?
No, that'll happen after I go canvassing. Priorities.
That's maybe go as a activist. That's pretty.
I think I might be doing that. Absolutely.
Okay, super. Well, speaking of all this kind of the tricks and treat, let's bring up our wonderful show messenger, Fennell Norton. And I love your hat. Look at that. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Yeah,
I'm doing fantastic. I know, I do love the hat.
Well, I got to say that, when I was thinking about what we were going to talk about today, there is really seriously, we need to talk about this, a really scary situation. This morning, I'm sure everybody's heard the news that Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul, was brutally, he was attacked in his own home. He's in the hospital, he's recovering, and our thoughts are with their family. This is the kind of scary situations that we all have been talking about for years, that the Republicans have created by not countering the misinformation, disinformation, by stoking up this kind of rhetoric. We see this kind of stuff. So we just really needed to talk about that, because we also go right to voter intimidation. We see it in Arizona, what's happening there. And there are some, I think, even lawsuits about the rise in that. We had elected officials, Senator Kelly Townsend, encourage people to be vigilantes. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts when you see this kind of stuff going on? And it's very unsettling.
Yeah, it really is unsettling. But I don't think we just have to be vigilant, and right. And that's what we're doing today, by having an opportunity to sort of laugh it off and just say, you know what, we know that there's a bunch of serious stuff going on, but we got to just take a deep breath and just sort of let it out, and then do what we're going to do, which is the things that we're talking about. We have 11 days left. 11 days is a lifetime. And I'm going to be at the polls. I'm going to be manning my precinct. And so we just have to get out there too. If they have folks out there, we should have folks out there too. I just say at this point, we just go tit for tat and we just give it as good as we get it.
Yeah.
With a smile.
Well, we were not encouraging our people to be intimidating. We're doing
No.
it to be really there for democracy. But, it's having those treats. And I'm glad you brought up delicious treats because that's, part of the Halloween season. You see Obama showing up in Georgia. I just love it. It just gives me, getting out the vote. So we do have some treats. That is going to just get people energized because he's just such a great, what the energy he brings, it's just so positive, and that's where we need to keep too. And we also spoke about some other, treats that we could do right now in the room. I want to encourage people to what you've done, Fennell. Write to your family members, write to your relatives or text them. You can do it. You don't need an app. You don't need anything special. Just text them, right? That's some of the actions you can do.
Yeah, let me say two things because I think it's really important. Because I do know that people are fearful when they go out, and we've got costumes on the day, and we're showing that we can laugh and have fun. But I also think it's really important that we let people know that we're not afraid either. We're serious about this business, and we don't want folks to be intimidated at the polls. And so we get to go out there too, not to scare anybody, but to make sure that we are being supportive of our people, that they know that we've got their backs. And so we're going to be out there. We'll have treats on election day. We share them freely. But we are out there to support our voters, and we're out there to support the folks who are working the polls. I think that's really important.
It's all about who you're going to call. And I think, you've seen after the Fetterman debate, there's always this discussion back and forth, again, trying to get in people's head. And so it's really our job to really bring that kind of positive vibe. And I did it at the farmers market. I brought music. I really just try to instill that positive vibe in people because it's so important what we're doing, but we have to really bring the optimism because there's so much people trying to bring it down, right? Just pop over to our next segment and get this party started.
I am so happy to get to talk to you today. So this is what I want to know in terms of book banning. And so everybody knows about it. You've been to Network Nova, you came to the summit. I think that oftentimes people just sort of don't think about how this impacts them. So I want to get to that. But first of all, what is like the book that's been banned the most, the book that's been challenged the most as you've been watching and working through this whole book banning thing?
I think Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe has really gotten the most attention in the last year or so, but there are a host of them that the American Library Association has been tracking through their Office of Intellectual Freedom. And I'm going to put some links in the chat for people who are interested in that. We've also, there's an organization called Unite Against Book Bans. And a lot of what's happening with book bans is that typically librarians and educators understand all the nuances and all the finesse, but this has gotten so much larger that we're trying to capture other people who might work in different industries, but also oppose book banning. And Unite Against Book Bans is one of those websites that allows you to sign up for a mailing list and then take action.
Okay, so let's just step back for just a minute.
Please,
book banning is not new.
No,
but it's not new. So why don't we just talk a little bit about it, and in a way so that when I'm talking to my friends and neighbors, that they understand why this is such a critical issue and why it's so important today that we all understand it and know how to talk about it.
Sure. I think that in the past, when people have opposed books, and I'll use Harry Potter as an example, where people opposed it because it included witchcraft, right? Those folks were not in a political realm that were opposing this book. They were really concerned about fears for their children being exposed to something they were uncomfortable with. And many libraries and librarians are trained to talk to people one-on-one about this and how you don't get to decide if you don't like a book that it isn't allowed to be in a collection. What we're seeing in the last year has been really politically motivated. They're going after specific titles that have specific subjects that cover LGBTQIA+ issues and or were written by people of color. And so it's a really targeted banning of books.
And so when we have a targeted banning of books, as you've seen, what is really the issue that's behind it? What is it really all about?
Fear. It's absolutely fear of other people's lived experiences and wanting to control a narrative, and not allowing other people's stories to be heard.
And so when you think about what damage this does to kids, what comes to mind? What is the damage to children who are now not able to have access to these books?
It's really chilling because, a lot of us relate to things and find ourselves in books or are exposed to different ideas and different aspects of communities that we're not a part of. And so when you take those away, you're taking away the mirrors and windows that we typically give to kids to be able to find themselves. And what we're doing is actually driving them more to the internet to look for things, which is, as we know, a dangerous place for young children to be, seeking out information about the things that are important to them.
So we talked a little bit about LGBTQ books, transgender books. Yep. Let's talk about when those kinds of books are not accessible. What does it mean? You talked a little bit about you don't allow people to sort of understand and see a mirror into other lives.
Right.
What are the conservatives and Republicans who are really pushing against these bans? What are they trying to do? What is the point?
I think it's to erase people that they disagree with. I think it's to erase stories and not allow them to be told. It's to pretend that diverse backgrounds don't exist and that we get to really not see other people's point of views so that you continue to be sort of programmed in a way that you feel comfortable with without allowing anyone else to infringe on that. It's really very confusing. I am stunned by a lot of the tactics.
And so typically when these books about race happen too, we don't want to hear the narratives on race. We don't want to hear from authors who write about race. Can we talk a little bit about that and its implications?
Sure. I mean, I think that a lot of us are on our own journeys of recognizing the racist things we grew up with, right? We're on these anti-racist journeys. And some people don't even want to start that journey, right? Which is really kind of troubling. But when you start to block out people's stories and tell them their voices don't matter, you're doing the same things we've been doing for decades, right? And saying that only these certain people get their stories told and these other people don't count as much. And I think that's really cruel to do to people, to children, to those who want to read and explore.
So what do we do? How do we get more people involved? How do we get more people caring about this? How do we get the everyday Tom, Dick, and Harry, and Sarah to care about this issue?
Sure. I think that it's really important to point out the people on your school boards, right? We're talking about a lot of election things here. The school boards are really where this is happening. We've seen them intervening for the last couple, I would say 2 or 3 years now on a lot of social issues in schools. And now it's becoming a point in their election rhetoric that we want people, they're saying these books are bad, we're trying to protect children. They're really manipulating the narrative. And if you are someone who opposes book banning and recognizes it for what it is, please show up at your school board meetings, write letters to the editor, write op-ed pieces, share with your friends that this is actually censorship. I think part of the issue is that we have a lot of people who will say, well, this isn't censorship. We aren't stopping a book from being published. But if you look at a school, each school is its own community. And if you take a book out of that school, you are removing that story from that community. Not every kid has enough money to have a phone. Not every kid has a ride to the public library. Not every kid has access. And so we need to make sure that these books are staying where they have been placed. Every book earns its place on the shelf. Librarians have been trained for decades on how to do collection development and what's important and what's age appropriate. And now suddenly these folks are trying to erode that trust. Please trust your librarians and your educators.
So we talked a little bit about going to school board meetings. I know that there's probably a lot of parents who aren't able to do that. Their work schedules, they're not going to be they're not going to be able to do that. They're not going to be informed about this issue, and they're not going to be informed about what harm this does to their kids not to have access to this. What do we say to them? How do we get information to them? And how does this audience think about how they might talk to their friends and neighbors and friends of friends and neighbors who might not have access to information like this, or think about describing it in the ways that we talked about it?
Sure. And we are definitely going into a much deeper level here, right, than we often get other people engaged. I think probably the line that I use most when I hear people say, well, I don't want my kid having access to that book is, well, just because you don't want them having access doesn't mean that other people don't get to have access. You don't get to choose for other people. Right. There's a reason that we have these resources, and they're because they reach different people at different times. We always say things like every book has its reader, right? There's a right time and a right place for every book for every child. And I think that if we just emphasize the idea, take the politics out of it, you just don't get to decide for other people what they can or cannot have access to. We're all here to be a community together. Does that help?
So it does help. And the reason that I pose this question this way is because I always use myself sort of as to say, okay, how would I think about this? How do people that I know, how would they think about this? Right. And I sometimes think that our discussions are sort of at a higher level where the everyday person might not really understand that not being able to read about Harriet Tubman, that not being able to read about slavery, not being able to read about people who don't think or look like you, how damaging that is to a kid once they get to high school, depending on what the book is, but once they go to college, that now they've missed the exposure to things that just help them be a more full thinking person, a more critical thinking person. So that's why I really try to focus on beyond the folks who are on this call, when we're having conversations with other people, how might we do that so that it's a more meaningful conversation of meeting them where they are?
Right. Well, and another thing that I will do is say, how did you ever read this book when you were a kid? And I usually pick one of the top ones that were banned, like say a Judy Blume title. Most people in a certain age range will be like, oh, I love Judy Blume. Well, she was one of the most banned and censored authors of the 70s, 80s, 90s. And even today, people are objecting to her books. So she's obviously hit a nerve. And if someone had told you, you can't read that book, you have to recognize that you don't get to tell other people, well, you can't read this book because I disapprove. But also I know we're coming up on the end of my time,
but
we're
not. We have time. No, I'm sorry.
The majority of them are not even reading the whole book that they are objecting to. They're seeing a sliver of it online. We have a school board member here in Virginia Beach, Victoria Manning, who is the queen of posting things out of context and blowing them up and getting people to think they're shoving porn and obscenity down people's throats. Just an FYI, you can't take a page out of a book and call it pornographic or obscene. Legally, you have to look at the entire work. And Vicki and I were in a courtroom together in August when there was a court case against genderqueer in a court of mist and fury. And the judge went over this in great detail. She missed the memo. So she's continuing to misuse the words.
Yeah. So Catherine, is there anything you wanted to add?
Well, I'm thinking what brings to mind is that as a kid, I was a reader and I loved my mom's books, all the great kind of books. And I did that. I would go to all the good parts in the book, that.
Right. Well, so I'll just say,
right.
One of the strategies that I've been taking lately, and I think Heidi was at one of the meetings, is that I've started billing back Victoria Manning for the hours she's wasted at these board meetings. I figured out, I calculated how much an hour would cost of all the professionals involved in all of her challenges. And I showed up the first day with a $400,000 bill. She then said she had 100 more books she found online, and I showed up with a $7 million bill. So I'll put a link to my LinkedIn in the chat if you want to see those videos.
Well, that speaks to a lot of really what we see. It's that, you know, in the sense of the nonsense of the chaos that's want to be created, and the really work for real people, from teachers to professionals like yourself. We see this at the election level when they're doing the FOIA requests and they're inundating these offices, and it really is something. But I'll have to say that one thing kids are probably doing is reading more now that they know what the good lists are out there. And for our audience to see if you're awake and to see how many you are readers, I want to see, just put in the chat. I know we talked about the most recent challenged book recently, but let's see who can get the answer right for the most challenged book across the United States. I'll give you 4 choices: Lord of the Flies, Bluest Eyes by Toni Morrison, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Catcher in the Rye. Out of those 4 books, which one is the most challenged book? Let's see if
can we guess. Lisa can't guess, but can I guess?
No, do you want to guess? Yeah, well, let's look in the chat first. Let's give our audience a check. What do you think? Most challenged book. There we go. What do we got in the chat? I got it trying to see the chat. What do we got, Robin?
It's mostly To Kill a Mockingbird.
Ah, that's okay. What was your guess, Vanel?
I was going to say The Killer in the Rye.
The Killer in the Rye. Well, The Catcher, the Killer Mockingbird.
Yeah, The Catcher in the Rye. Yeah.
Okay, good. Lisa, your guess.
I'm gonna say anything by Toni Morrison.
Well, look at that. Because the beloved in Virginia, the answer is The Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah.
Oh, how about that?
And it's one of the most, because again, it's this idea, I guess, questioning power, but love that book. And I have to say, and you'll appreciate this, that this goes back, and I looked up the first banned book in American history is in 1637. It's by Thomas Morton, titled New English Canon. And it was banned because it made fun of Puritans. So I'm sure Delegate Rasoul will appreciate that. But, you know, it's nothing new, is it?
No.
Yeah.
It's the same old.
Yeah. And I think Charlotte's Web was one time banned too, because animals were talking, spiders were talking or something. So, yeah. So I think this has been a really great discussion. And Lisa, I really appreciate it, because I think that I hope that folks walk away with the opportunity of understanding what we can do and how we can have the conversations and how we can bring more people into this conversation so that you're not fighting alone.
I appreciate that. It is going back to one of the things Catherine said, they create these fires and we have to put them out, and our time is valuable. So just recognize that, please.
I love that strategy. Thank you, Lisa Varga, for all the work you do. Thank you, Fennell. Ivy Main, you have been working so hard on the clean energy initiatives in Virginia. Your work as an advocate with the Sierra Club. You are the president or that chair of that chapter, and you blog now for what is it? It's Virginia. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at my notes, but your blog on the Virginia,
I'm on Virginia Mercury, and also my own blog, which is powerforthepeopleva.com.
Power for the People. Yes. Yes.
Let me correct one thing. I'm no longer the chair of the Virginia chapter of the Sierra Club. I was able to hand that off.
You're like, I've got good for you, but your resume speaks well of how much you care about this issue. And, you know, the grassroots in this room worked really hard. Sharon Shuttler and our education group really working hard on RGGI. And I just like to say RGGI because it's, obviously you need to, why don't you tell us about what that is? We know it's brought over $100 million to the state to help with low income weatherization projects and so on. So give us the setup. What are we talking about here? And what is Youngkin's New Virginia plan? Energy plan?
So 2 years ago, the General Assembly passed the Virginia Clean Economy Act and a separate bill that put Virginia into the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is a coalition of northeastern states that trade carbon allowances from power plants. And each year, the number of allowances get smaller. Utilities have to buy the allowances through auctions. in order to run their fossil fuel plants. And then the auction money goes back to the states. And in Virginia, the money has been allocated, about half of it to low income energy efficiency, half to flood resilience. So, and it has been over 400 million so far that we've gotten for these programs. It's a huge source of funding that we didn't have before. But Glenn Youngkin campaigned against both of these bills, and he is determined to pull Virginia out of RGGI. He tried to get it done legislatively, couldn't do it because we have a firewall in the Senate that is committed to the energy transition. So now he's telling the Department of Environmental Quality to do it by regulation, which most people have looked at it, says that's illegal. You know, we're in there by statute. He can't just pull us out. But that's his effort.
It sounds very Trumpy to me. You know, it's sort of like when Andrew Wheeler, he wanted to get in charge of the environmental stuff in Virginia, and then when he didn't get his way, he was really punished the people who did that. And then he also he was trying to figure out a way, how can he hire these people? Very tricky, very tricky.
Right. And as we know, Youngkin did that by getting the EPA administrator, Andrew Wheeler, to come over and work for him. And he tried to get him an official position, and the Senate blocked that. So now he's an advisor, but he's very much in charge of what's happening on energy. And it's alarming. It's scary.
Yeah. So let's, it's interesting. So when I'm looking at all the revenue that it's brought in and what you said, and a lot of money, it's been doing a lot of great stuff from major healthy, safety repairs on existing home, affordable, and, just making more homes efficient and creating high-paying jobs and really moving the state forward. So tell us why is it, what's the motivation to pull us out? Give us what's really going on, and why is the eagerness to pull us out of this?
Well, his argument is that it raises costs to ratepayers. Although if you're pouring money into energy efficiency, in fact, you're lowering bills for the people who have the most trouble affording their energy bills.
Right.
What's going on is that he's beholden to fossil fuel interests, right? It's this is a threat to our fossil fuels, to coal and particularly natural gas, which now is, so we're getting fracked gas as the main source of our electricity. Those companies are supporting Youngkin and other Republicans. And that's what's really happening. So Youngkin talks about abundant, reliable, and clean energy, and that sounds great. But once you start looking into it, it's full of tricks.
Yeah. So tell us about some of the tricks in his Virginia plan. Are you impressed by it? Is it really a plan? You sort of called it out for it's sort of like any of these plans. It's not. There's really not a plan. It's sort of like a blank book. Give us what his plan looks like.
Right. It was incomplete. The Virginia statute says the energy plan must have 10 years worth of steps towards meeting our goals, our clean energy transition goals. It doesn't have any of this. It doesn't even mention the statute that requires this. It's supposed to have a greenhouse gas inventory so that we can track our progress. It's not in there. So what we got instead was some red herrings. He talks a lot about the importance of baseload energy, which is not, it's like it's a red herring. It's
yes.
It is a way of supporting nuclear and gas plants. And so he says, solar's cheap, but we have to have base load, and therefore we're going to pour tons of money into small modular nuclear reactors and hydrogen and things that are at least 10 years away from being ready. Seem of trying to kick kick the problem down the land. Kick the problem
Yes.
down the land. Where did I get that?
Right,
Anyway.
well, land, we're talking about land and energy. I just want to do a check-in because is the sound okay, Robin? Is internet good?
A little slow with Ivy. We're having a
Okay,
little
just want to make
trouble.
sure it wasn't me, and no offense, Ivy, because I'm up in Cleveland, Ohio, and it's a little slower up here in Ohio. Just want to make sure I wasn't going in and out, but
No,
but-
Ivy's going in and out.
okay,
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We heard you. I love that the pesky details are just left out of these plans. And I'm wondering if it's because there's really not the work behind it. It is really more just a document to throw out there, maybe to just stir up the pot. So in general, while we wrap up here, what can people do in this room? I think the grassroots have worked so darn hard on this. Hate to see this roll back. And it won't roll back. I'm going to tell you that right now with the group we have in this room. But I mean, what do you think are next steps? And what do you expect Youngkin to also, any surprises in this up and coming legislative session?
Well, so, I mean, I think there are a lot of treats really from the federal government right now, right? So the Inflation Reduction Act contains amazing incentives for renewable energy and energy efficiency. And I think we need to be telling our elected officials that this is the time to lean in to our energy transition, because the IRA is making it much cheaper and is going to bring jobs for us. It is going to help low-income people with weatherization and home electrification. It's going to make everybody able to electrify their homes cheaply. And electric vehicles are also, in there. So I think the message here is to talk to legislators and tell them that you support RGGI and the Clean Economy Act, because we will be better off leaning into this.
No, I agree. I think you remind us again about, the optimism of what we've done. And I think, the last 2 years, we only had 2 short years to do some stuff, but we did a lot of really important things in those 2 years when Democrats led. And now, we really have to really be there, and especially this next 2023, and push back. So when we do this, if you will, so thank you, Ivy, for we know that's how we get things done, and we have some fun, and we make sure that we do show up. And thank you. All right, let's go. Okay, so what do we want to do next? Do we
want to bring on Sam?
No, we do. I'm thinking Sam, and Ivy very well, assuming Sam.
Yeah, she's been fighting the good fight for a while. So it's good to be on this powerful group of grassroots activists Zoom call with her and with Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, this work, when we talk about, and that's when I was thinking, who do I call when we were thinking about this show? Who can really, who do we call? It's called Delegate Sam Rasoul to discuss some of this trickery that we are seeing from the Republicans this election, maybe to get ready for the legislative session, and then how can we really channel this into positive energy? Because we've done so much good things. And Reggie, I know, maybe a lot of people have different thoughts on even the Clean Energy Act, but we got some stuff passed that were really good for the people. So give us you're in your bag of tricks yourself. What are you thinking about?
Well,
what are you thinking about this right now in the election?
I got a few quick slides, and then take any thoughts you guys have.
Well, Robin will let you share the screen because we know you know how to do it. Let's go.
All right, spooky topics for this session. Cue the scary music. First, Lisa, in honor of you today, this morning, my daughter, Amira, she wants to be a librarian. She dressed up as a librarian today. Sorry that I know librarians look all kinds of different ways, but she's in love with libraries and librarians. So in honor of you today, this is my daughter, Amira. So a few things to be on the lookout for. some spooky topics. We certainly will see, as we saw with lab schools last session, public education funding will be under attack. Issues like critical race theory and the quote unquote teaching of divisive concepts will be under attack. Another scary issue, as we see more and more people trying to divide us on equal rights, whether it be trans rights, LGBTQI rights. The reality is that as we go into an election season, they are priming the pump and getting ready to attack all of the good work that we had done in the past 2 years before, in make sure everyone is treated fairly. You definitely will see bills that are attacking firearm regulations when we put up some of those firewalls there. Right to abortion and abortion access for all persons. And clearly we will see some attacks on voting rights. As you might recall, before Democrats took control, we were the second hardest state in the country to vote. And then when we took control, now we are the 11th easiest state to vote. So more work to do, but we certainly can't go backwards for sure. And then, as you heard from Ivy, certainly renewable energy will be under attack. One thing that we already see bills on is electric vehicles. We wanted to make sure we advance ourselves as far as electric vehicle standards. There are already several bills attacking that to have a cleaner fleet on Virginia roads. And then a lot of us want to see a ban on donations from utilities. This is a clear conflict of interest. So we're going to be pushing for that, but we will, I'm sure, see some scary tricks out of Dominion, as we always do every session. Some lobbying tips for you. Number one, don't be intimidated. We are scared of you. Just so make sure when you come in confident. Number two, come prepared. If you got a book of information, bring a summary, just a simple 1 page. Number three, make sure that the one pager is concise and clearly says that you are please vote for this bill or vote against this bill, and make sure that you keep your message high and tight. Number four, focus on the committees and subcommittees. You don't have to lobby everyone. You want to focus on where are the few folks who are going to really be voting on this bill. Number five, make it personal. Bring it back. Hey, there are 3,000 teachers in your specific district. That's why I want you to support teachers. Or maybe there's some specific stories that are right out of Annandale that you want to tell the delegate from Annandale. And then lastly, close strong. Always be closing. At the end, make sure that the delegate or senator, that she or he tells you, yes, I support you. No, I don't. Or I'm not sure is an acceptable answer. So that way you can say, hey, maybe I'll follow up with you next week and I get you some more information. Always be closing. Bonus tips. Coalitions matter. That's why this group is magical. It's not because it's one versus another. The grassroots coalition, as we heard from Louisa and some of the good work, you hit them from so many angles, they don't know what to do. And it's very, very intimidating and a little spooky for people like me. Respect the staff. When you speak to my legislative assistant, our staff, it's just like speaking to us. They'll make sure if you are respectful, it'll get put on top of the stack. If you're not respectful, it might be on the bottom of the stack. And then, like I said, always be closing. Two quick things I wanted to mention to you. And what I love about this group is you started right after the 2016 presidential election saying we've got to do something. And this is, in fact, a marathon. Justice is a journey, not a destination. If we keep thinking about justice as a place we're going to get, we're always going to be let down. But life is about what? This journey as we're seeking a more and more just world, and knowing that we won't fully ever get there, but we hope to leave it a little bit more just than we found it. And of course, remember to vote in all of it. With that, I'm going to dive out of this and answer any hard questions that Catherine's got our way.
Woo, I'm so glad. And exactly, right? Who you going to call, Sam Rasoul? My friend, you always bring it. I love the tips, the tricks, and we'll definitely get those slides out to everybody. The hard question, like you said, it is what we've picked up, and is that, people are, what the media and what the forces out there try to get into your head, and really try to discourage you and make you feel like you said, you'll never get to the end. So I think that the hard question is I think you've answered it, but just realizing there is no real, there's a good spirit about it, but you can't, if you live by that, you will definitely be let down, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, 95% of making change is the organizing work. It's not about better ideas as far as better policy. There's some great people working on policy and that are really looking at things like Ivy, but really the reality is how do we organize? Being as orchestrated, how do we leverage our power? And
Right.
That's the way we should approach it for sure.
That's what you always taught me. How do we leverage our power? And it's really important in the room that, like, when we think about this, that how we do build that coalition, because when we do show up all together, it really does. We've made big changes using that power in a good way. So I love that. And I love that they always bring it. And so I just wanted the big question is, are you ready? Are we ready to go into this legislative session? Are we ready for January 15th when the governor lays down this 15-week ban? Are we ready?
Yeah, I can tell you there's certainly a lot of energy in the House and Senate. We're going into a very contentious, I'm sure, election season. You're going to see all kinds of crazy stuff coming out as far as legislation and proposals by this governor.
Right.
Reality is, it's going to take all of us every step of the way. So we're ready. Your legislators are ready.
All right.
So that they see the cavalry coming.
Okay, good. Well, who you going to call? The grassroots. Who you going to call? Thank you, Sam Rasoul. Delegate Sam Rasoul. Always great to see you, friend, and have fun this weekend. I love your daughter with her library outfit on. That made me happy. I'm sure everybody in the room just loved that, how you brought that into the room. So thank you so much. And I just want to say thank you to all of our guests today. Lisa Varga, I hope you can stay with us, maybe in the after chat. Sam, if you could stick around, maybe a few minutes, if anybody has any questions. And also Ivy Main is here with us, if she could stay a few minutes. Just want to say thank you for coming to the room. I hope everybody had fun with the tricks and treats. And again, we'll just say a few housekeeping tips. If you love us, you like what you see, please become a patron, support, invest in our work. Thank you very much. And we have all the social media stuff and great content on our YouTube channel. So please like that, share it. Join us on Twitter. It's so much fun. Follow us on Twitter. And then you will get the recap with the slides from Sam and all the stuff that you learned today. So you'll get that in a couple of days, the recap about everything that happened today. And a big Halloween thank you to the team. Robin Warner, the witchy witch up there, show wizard. And as I like to call her, Dr. Wizard. Thank you. Stair Calhoun, Ambassador Buzz, the bandit of Buzz, and Fanal Norton, the witchy show messenger, Heidi Dragniff, the angel, which we know you're just a sweet angel. And then Dennis Orsinger, thank you for the graphic designs and everything you do. Laura Martinez, our crew, our Zoom crew helpers, and Michelle McKinney, thank you. Newcomer chat liaison, and the content concierges, Julie Galdo, Alvina McCow, and Sally Renhold. So everybody have a great spooky weekend. Get into action. Stay for the after chat. Let's roll credits.